So I got in an accidental fight this morning, which happens sometimes. I never see him coming when it happens. But I do a show twice a week with our friend Brian Broadus on my little tiny YouTube channel. And we were
Is he 60 yet?
talking about, yes,
What?
maybe 61,
61?
maybe 62, I believe.
Random fights and arguments, huh?
He looked older than that.
What's up with the
He
energy
does
when
not
you
look older than that.
What's up with the energy when you hit 60? Like
Looks young.
you guys
spry.
get second wins. There's a shift. You getting more wind.
Clarence, you look older than Brian.
Whoa!
What? We gonna fight?
I just stand up for all my friends.
Oh, so Clarence ain't your friend?
I mean, what?
So we're talking about Cowboys run defense because people have been very critical of the Cowboys defensive tackles last year, and I'll point at myself. And he was just making it a point to say, like, it wasn't just them. Like, if you go back and look at any part of this Cowboys defense when they were trying to defend the run, like, we talk about the defensive tackles a lot, and guilty as charged as the primary. But he was like, man, there's just a lot more going on. So we got into an accidental fight. Because I was like, are you trying to tell me the D tackles were good? And he's like, well, no, but I'm just telling you to. But ultimately, the question comes down to, okay, given that no part of this was good at it, have they done enough to have fixed this? Is something Eberflus going to do magically going to change things? Is the different personnel going to magically change things? Or are we about to line up and get smacked up a little bit?
Yeah, I think because I listened to this on the ride in on your little YouTube channel.
On my little tiny YouTube channel.
Doing well, by the way, doing well. Yeah. I think the thing that he kind of misstepped on was, like, I think he was trying to argue that, yes, run defense isn't simply about what Mazi Smith does this year, right? Whether he's getting upfield or reading and reacting. I think he was trying to say, like, hey, it's a holistic thing. It's scheme. It's how your safeties come down and play. It's whether your corners are willing to set an edge if they have to. You know, whether you're leading the game or not. Like, I think if, these are all things that can kind of affect everything. But, like, I think the way it kind of came off was, hey, they've done enough with their defensive ends. Like, their defensive ends have to do more. Their linebackers have to do more. So I was a little surprised by it.
I will say it's kind of that thing, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Most of the time,
the chicken came from the egg, so obviously the egg.
But how the egg get?
From the chicken. So obviously the chicken was first.
How'd the first chicken get here?
From an egg.
Okay.
Which was laid by a chicken.
How'd the first chicken get here?
But it's the point of, all right, how is the run game being looked at? If you have poor defensive lineman play, you're probably going to have poor linebacker play. Because those guys, and we've seen it on multiple occasions, those defensive tackles and linemen get pushed to the second level. And if they're getting pushed to the second level, that means linebackers don't have a clear picture to read and react. They don't have good angles. They don't have good lanes. Now if you're not eating up the proper amount of blocks, now you have dual blocking. You have that, those guards and those centers getting up to the next level, and a guy at 230, 40 pounds having to deal with another 300-pound dude. And sometimes if I can just get the edge of a linebacker and my running back times it right, you can't bring them down with an arm tackle, which means now my safeties aren't close enough to the box, and now they aren't making the proper
run
tackles.
Defense is holistic.
It is an absolute holistic thing, but it starts up front.
For sure.
It starts, the impetus of this thing going bad is if you can or cannot control the line of scrimmage. And if you're getting blown off the ball at point of attack, you don't have a chance in many other areas.
And if you tell them, I ain't moving, it sure makes it tough for that double team to get up to a linebacker.
Absolutely.
And
Uh-oh.
I'm always about the Jimmys and Joes.
Oh, I thought you were thinking about the cat again. Okay.
I'm always about the Jimmys and Joes.
Okay.
Unless you have to pay to get him here in the trade, then.
But that's my point.
Right.
And so that's the problem. Broadus is right. It's more than just the tackles. But we all know that. Dan Quinn knew that. Mike Zimmer knew that. Okay, it's always about the scheme matters. Run fit. We can talk about run fits and doing your job, and that's everywhere. Okay, so yes, it's more than just defensive tackles. Yes, Micah is not a great run defender, but you know what? You know how you slow down a great pass rusher?
He's also not as bad as people give him.
Run right at him.
Against it since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You're gonna run at the pass rusher. Okay,
Yeah.
Charles said go back to beginning of football. You run at him. So yes, that's not his strong suit. Yes, he needs to be better, but that's what you do. But at the end of the day, you have to be. Yes, and I talked about on the show, the mindset is all 11 guys playing run defense, including the corners. You want your corners to play run defense. You know, and so that means Diggs and those guys having to set the edge and do the things. Yes, we all understand that. You still need to be better inside.
Yeah. I think the Jimmy's and the Joe's thing, and that's what you were trying to say, is like, have they done enough this offseason in order to kind of get more horses to kind of do it? I don't think you can confidently say that they've done enough to say they're going to be a better run defense.
Yes.
In conjunction with scheme, and I think sometimes scheme can make a difference. You look at what the Ravens did last year. They were allowing 4.5 yards per game in 2023. They get a new defensive coordinator because Mike McDonald got a head coaching job, and next thing you know, they're averaging around 3.6 yards allowed per game. But also, the thing about run defense, it's an emphasis too. And it also kind of depends on what you have in the secondary, because if you can say, all right, we are going to devote 8 guys to the box because I have Kyle Hamilton back there who's going to make plays and some other corners who are going to make some things in coverage, that's great. So I don't know, considering also what they have on the back end right now in Dallas.
There's no right answer on the Dallas defense right now.
No, I don't think that we can confidently say the run defense is going to be better this year just because of what they did horses-wise and schematically.
Well, but the bottom line is this. It has been emphasized. It's been a mental emphasis.
For sure, and it hasn't changed.
That's why they drafted Mazi, because there was an emphasis, okay? So they're mentally emphasizing, we need to be better against the run, okay? Do you have the players to do that? You know, let's look at the guys they've added to the team. You know, and that's why my thing is everybody's excited about the offense and what they did with George Pickens. Yes, they got some guys on defense. We've talked about Kenneth Murray, how good he is, and Sanborn. But Kenneth Murray's really here because Demo's hurt, right?
Right.
You know, and you got Sanborn. Who's
Kyrie Elam's.
Listen, we can talk about what we love about Sanborn's traits. Nobody ever tried to make him a starter. Okay, so he is still a wild card,
and he didn't get a bunch of money.
And he didn't get a bunch of money for a reason. Okay, yes, and Mazi's still a work in progress. And we got.
I love you, Sanborn.
Okay, you do love him, but you ain't gonna pay him, and the Cowboys ain't gonna pay him. And we love what Mazi, but they got 2 7th-round picks, but we don't know what they're gonna do. Okay, so there are still questions about their ability to stop the run, and you go back to all the losses, all the setbacks. They have not been able to stop the run. They've been getting run over, run through. And as much as Dak and Pickens and CD can put up points, until you're able to stop the run, we ain't gonna end that drought. That drought ain't ended.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about what Broada said, I think overall one of his points being, let's not just hinge the entire run defense this year, though, on Mazi Smith, whether he plays well or not. I think that's fair. Like, I think Mazi has to play well, but I'm also not saying, okay, if he plays bad, the whole run defense is bad, even though I know it starts up front.
The problem is you when you commit a first-round pick to a position, to a player, their expectations.
But you got to switch this. You do it with Tyler Guyton, too. You do this with Tyler Guyton, too.
He wasn't here.
He wasn't here for 24 months.
The Jeff rule is that there are no more expectations for Mazi. We're 2 years into this thing. I don't care where you were drafted. You are what you are.
I'd argue 12 months.
If you're decent, cool. I can't bank on that or expect it.
I'd argue 12 months.
Well, I get that. So we don't expect it to be better. So basically,
but again, it's one of those things where
what he is.
My idea of good for Mazi, serviceable. If Mazi's a serviceable defensive tackle, that's awesome for this team. The idea of he's going to be elite or he was a first rounder is so dead in the water.
Okay.
I hope he's serviceable.
Historically, as an old guy,
you said it.
Glad you said it.
You can't have.
I would say aging. I wouldn't call you old.
You can't be a great 4-3 defense without a monster in the middle. Not a serviceable guy. Somebody has to be a monster. Either 3 techniques. Somebody has to wreck shop.
That's why they paid Osa.
Somebody has to wreck shop.
Baby.
They paid Osa for that reason.
I can say we can't have no conversation.
$20 million. What is
where are you going?
I love Osa.
Where are you going?
He don't wreck shop. Come on, let's look at the names. He ever wrecked shop?
A little shop.
Can we talk?
He wrecks some shop.
Can we have some conversation?
Not in the run game.
Can we talk?
Has he ever wrecked shop?
Not in the run game.
Not in anywhere.
Right.
He got 3 sacks a year. What are you talking about?
But he's one of the leading pressure getters of defensive linemen. What are you talking about?
I do think that pivots the conversation, though, to where it's like, if when you go down that road, to me, that no longer relates to Mazi, where it's like, and Mazi needs to. That's more of a, and
Mazi's
Jerry, you got to do something. Like, the dude's not here yet.
Mazi's the biggest investment inside. That's the only reason.
No,
well, now $20 million.
Well, now, but I'm talking about draft investment, draft capital, biggest draft investment inside.
Yeah.
The expectation for a first-round draft pick inside was higher than that third-round pick.
Oh, yeah. I was hoping it would happen, and now I think it shifts. That responsibility shifts to Jerry, Stephen, and Will of whoever it is, he's not here.
Yeah.